It is that time once again. Welcome to Garden America. Yes, we are back in studio broadcasting from San Diego, California, the iHeartMedia and Entertainment Studios. Like I said, Southern California, San Diego. John Bagnasco, as you just heard, is here with his phone feeding back. Tiger is getting a kick out of this whole thing. As
you know what's funny is I turned it off.
You know what? You're special needs. We love you. You're precious.
You just got finished saying, turn it back on. It's kind of funny.
Oh.
And I think Siri was listening.
I might have said that. But we are back. Perhaps you're listening to us as a pre-recorded show. That's fine, too. But we are live right now, at least, here on a Saturday morning. You can pick us up on Alexa, Google, Spotify, many ways to hear Garden America digitally. And Alexis will play the latest podcast if you ask her. Tiger.
Happy birthday to Carla.
Yeah, we're excited to spend your birthday with you. Happy birthday, Carla.
Happy birthday, Carla. And what do we have in store today? We have a guest, a first time we've had a guest since we've been back from Costa Rica. Her name is Peggy.
And you know what's funny? So we're talking lilies.
Lilies,
But
yes.
It's funny because lilies are, when I was passed this note for this guest, for this interview, it said lilies are the plant of the year?
The bulb of the year.
The bulb of the year.
Yeah.
But lilies are also it's just a term for a plant, right? Like there's daylilies, there's the bulb lilies, there's, lily pad, there's all kinds of lilies. And so
I think lily is Lilium, the genus Lilium.
Why you gotta get so
true
technical?
lily is.
Why you gotta get so technical,
Why do you have
John?
to get all scientific on this?
Did I just ruin what you were going to say?
John, there
sorry.
are all kinds of lilies, okay? There's
All
even
right.
people named Lily.
Which brings us to my next point. When's the last time we even talked about a lily here on Garden America?
John brought in daylilies a little while ago.
Yeah, but those
Those are not lilies.
Those are hemerocallis.
Yeah. Well, we trust you had a good week.
Yeah, were you going to make a point, though?
Yeah.
No, just making a point that there's a lot of lilies out
Right.
there.
And I wanted to reach out to you out there and hope you had a good week and your weekend's off to a good start. A lot of people do kick off their weekend with us. So depending upon how the show goes, good, bad, or indifferent.
So goes their whole
So
weekend?
goes their whole
Oh,
weekend.
my
And
gosh.
sometimes it bleeds into next week.
Have we ever had people stay in bed the next day?
Oh, gosh, all the time. You know what that's called? A Garden America hangover.
Oh, wow.
I just can't get out of bed. That show yesterday was just terrible. Yeah. So we haven't said we've got a great show lined up today yet.
Well,
We're not sure.
We always like to under-promise and over-deliver.
Absolutely. It's a lot easier that way.
Yeah.
Let's see. May, the nursery. What happens now?
Garden walk today.
Oh, the garden walk.
The Mission
That's right.
Hills Garden Walk is today.
Right,
So
where
where
you
you
have-
get to go into people's backyards.
You can climb the fence.
without them
Without them
inviting
knowing.
you. Yeah.
And just kind of trample around their yard.
Exactly. But, garden walks are a great opportunity to kind of get inspiration, see what other people are
Right.
doing. Have realistic expectations, too, because looking through the internet or magazines or books, number one is that photo was taken probably at a very ideal time of day and
At peak performance.
angle, and they've
Lighting.
gotten the garden ready to go and looking good for it.
Sunshine.
And also, you never know. Sometimes these photos are taken gardens in Michigan and other parts of the country, and then you get this inspiration to do it, and you're like, oh, I can't grow any of those plants here.
Right.
So it's nice to have some local inspiration.
I wonder why you picked Michigan.
Because it looks beautiful for 3 weeks out of the year. And
Michigan and other parts of the country. It's like saying North Dakota and other parts of the country.
yeah. But there's a lot of really pretty parts, but you just don't know what it looks like the other 9 months out of the year.
Yeah, Carolyn wished us a great good morning, and I was just thinking, we had one of the coolest winters and springs we've had in a long time.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
right.
all kinds of rain, and now we're into May gray.
Yep.
Then we got June gloom coming. And
then there's July Halai, which
well,
does
but
that even
then
exist?
then who was it here? Lisa said that they're looking at 100 degrees next week in Redding.
Wow.
So you're going out of all this cool,
Wow.
overcast weather into 100 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So how should one prepare their plants for something like that, knowing what's on the horizon?
I don't think you can.
You can't, right?
You
Yeah.
can't. I mean, if you've got a small yard or if you've got plants in pots, you can move them in the shade.
I was going to say
Move
shade.
them out of direct
Yeah.
sun. You could throw shade cloth over something.
Because people think watering, But the issue is like the plant is not prepared.
No.
Meaning you're taking this, plant that's been in this environment where it doesn't mind getting full exposure because the sun hasn't been that strong. And then all of a sudden you're throwing it on the beach down there in Costa
watering's
Rica.
not always the answer.
And it's just going to burn no matter what you do. So
I've noticed with some of the roses, mainly the flowers, if they've opened under cool conditions, even this week where it got to 75, it can burn the petals.
Right. And they could be strong, healthy plants.
Yeah, the plants
It just
are fine.
doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, it's just the flower. By the way, speaking of plants, I brought in, I forget the name of that company. It was something perennials.
Must have
perennials.
Yes.
And I brought in for you and Brian to...
Oh, some of these have to go to Brian?
Oh, really?
Well,
some of them have to go to Tiger?
he had just mentioned that he wanted a couple, but they were liners for new plants.
Yes.
And we don't talk about hellebores that much, but hellebores, a lot of breeding has been done over the last 30 years for hellebores. And these new ones, the leaves are kind of... Well, you can look in the catalog there and see what they look like eventually, but there's a lot of variegation to the leaves, and so when the hellebore's out of bloom, the plant's going to be there. It's still going to look cool.
Right.
And it's a great way to, because a lot of the hellebores also are kind of more shade for us in Southern California.
Right.
And it's a great way to have that impact and color and texture and all of that in the shade because it's so hard to get something to bloom. It's like, oh, yeah, I can feel ivy in here or, this.
Have it grow anywhere, anytime.
And they're winter bloomers, so it comes at a time of year when other things aren't blooming.
Hey, speaking of ivy, this kind of goes off track a little bit, but, Wrigley Field they're famous for the ivy in the outfield covering the bricks.
Wall, right.
And usually it takes a month or two before it actually grows in. The first month of the season is still kind of bare. But I saw some highlights from Wrigley Field, and it was all grown in already. Just seemed to be a bit early.
Yeah, well, I saw the game when the Padres were playing, right? Weren't they out there?
Yeah, I think maybe that's what I saw, too.
And it was beautiful weather.
Yeah.
Though. It looked like they were having some really nice weather.
But it's Mother's Day. They're in the height of spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe like you're saying, you're just used to seeing like opening day or something like that,
maybe
and it's not so
April
much.
where it's not completely grown in.
But there's also some times where, they do get really cold all the way into May as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Gina says that she officially has spring fever.
Oh, yeah?
Up there in Meridian, Idaho.
Are they teasing? Is she? Now
she said, I bought so many beautiful new things for Mother's Day.
Oh, that's
so did we say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there?
No, I don't think so.
You were going to save that for the next segment, but we can do it now.
So you're going to start listing them?
Happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers out there who are listening and not listening, who we love very much.
Yeah, exactly. Happy Mother's Day for sure.
John's quote of the week. That's what I'm looking for.
Carla says she loves hellebores, which we were just talking about. She said they're very popular now.
Really?
In Huntington Beach.
Well, I don't know. I don't stay up on what's popular and what's not. I usually count on Tiger for that because he has more access to the new retail.
You think he has
happening.
his finger on the pulse of what's happening horticulturally?
He does. I can tell you what was happening 30 years ago.
But last night, no idea.
Oh, and you were asking about the quote, Brian, right?
Yes.
The quote is from Menachem Begin.
Menachem Begin.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's actually pronounced Menachem.
Well, probably from the Israeli standpoint of view.
Maybe.
I mean, correctly pronounced, right.
We say Menachem.
Yes.
So. But Menachem reminds me of that bit that they did on Sesame Street.
I didn't see that coming.
Wow,
Was this a Big Bird segment?
No, it was like a phenomena. Do you remember that?
No.
Do.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about now.
Okay.
Do.
Anyway, that kind of reminds me of when you say Menachem. Anyway, he said, peace is the beauty of life. It's sunshine. It's the smile of a child, the love of a mother, the joy of a father, the togetherness of a family. It's the advancement of man, the victory of a just cause, the triumph of truth.
Yeah.
A lot to digest there.
A lot going in there.
You know who said all we are saying is give peace a chance?
That was
Freddie Mercury?
no, it was
but
it was John Lennon.
John Lennon, yeah, that song.
But it
All
was
we are saying
it wasn't the Beatles, was
give
it?
peace
Wasn't
a-
that his?
That was after. That was him and the Plastic Ono Band.
That's what it was.
Right. Yeah, he went from a kind of a roughneck, kind of a ruffian when he was young to a peaceful guy. Tried to be a peaceful guy in his later years. All right, it is that time again. We're going to get a hold of our guest. Peggy's with us today. Tiger.
Yeah, Peggy's going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking about the bulb of the year, which is the lily.
The bulb of the year.
Yes.
Which is not General Electric, from what I understand, nor is it an LED.
Make bulbs?
These messages coming your way next if you're tuned in on Biz Talk Radio. We appreciate you. This is Garden America. Stay with us. We are back from the break. Pleasant good morning to you, or good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening to us here on Garden America. Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. Going to throw to Tiger right now as we say in the business and bring in our guest Peggy. And here we go, Tiger.
Yeah, so this morning we have Peggy Anne Montgomery joining us to talk about the bulb of the year. Peggy Anne works with the Garden Media Group. I'm sorry, I was reading GardenComm, and I'm like, wait a minute, Garden Media Group. Now, Peggy, the first line of your description, I love it because this is such a gardening thing, horticulturalist thing, industry thing, but it describes you as a people-oriented horticultural professional, because it's kind of like one of those things in the industry, and kind of like in science. There's people that focus on the plants. But sometimes those people are not people-oriented plant people.
True. How true that is.
But Peggy is people-oriented. Thank you for joining us this morning. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. And you know what? I think one of the most wonderful things about gardening is gardening people. Garden people are good people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to be.
Yeah, exactly.
We do our best.
We definitely need to be... There definitely have to be people in order for people to garden. So it's kind of a you got to work hand in hand. Now this year, the bulb of the year, Peggy, the lily. What do you think of the lily when somebody says lily to you? What is the plant that comes to mind?
Probably what comes to mind for me are Oriental lilies, because I'm one of the people that love the fragrance, and just a few stems of those in a vase in the house. It's the perfume is just magic, and of course, I love to smell it in my garden too.
And we were having this debate here in the studio about the lily, and you mentioned the Asiatic lily, the fragrance, the flower.
She said
Oriental lily. Sorry, the fragrance, the flower, the color. It's one bulb. You get, the one plant coming off of it. I'm right there with you that it is like definitely a statement to be made. John, on the other hand, though, looks at it as like, oh, it's kind of like just one thing. But then I tell John, I'm like, but that's your rose. You get like, one or two flowers off of a rose bush. And,
but then you get more and more and more all summer. The lily comes up, blooms, and that's it.
Yeah, but
okay, I'm going to cut in here, boys, because maybe it blooms and it's done, but it's like fireworks. It's beautiful. And I think we get to appreciate it even more because it doesn't last for months. And so when they bloom, you're out there, you're looking at them. The pollinators are going crazy, and they're magic. and you can plant a variety so that you have them blooming in succession for quite a long time.
All right, that's what I wanted to know, because I'm always willing to be convinced, and that's what I'm wondering. Are there varieties that you can plant in succession, or plant all at once but bloom in succession?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in Delaware in Zone 7, and right now my Martagon lilies are up, and they're in bud. And then next are going to be my Asiatics, and Asiatics are awesome. They bloom in late spring or early summer, and these are the ones that, for people that find the scent too strong. Asiatics have very little or no scent. And then after that, we're going to get my Orientals going. And then the Tigrinums, the tiger lilies, are going to bloom. So honestly, I have, and I also grow species lilies, so we really have lilies blooming almost all summer.
And then, are these bulbs that, you're in Delaware, is this something you have to plant every year? Do they come back for you? How is it that you manage those?
Oh, that's a great question. So lily bulbs have really a wide range of zones. They're usually listed as 3 or 4 to 9. So, excuse me, pollen is really bad here. So that's, it has quite a big range, 3 or 4 to zone 9. And lilies are perennial. So they do come back year after year and get bigger and bigger. And, now my tiger lilies are so massive, I get to take off bulbs and share them with all my friends and families every year.
Oh, there you go. That's a good way to do it. And I do love the idea that it's kind of like not there all the time, but then when it pops up, and like you're saying, it's fireworks. It really is, because they pop up, you got the different heights. Some of them get really tall. And so, it's kind of fun to kind of see that happen in your garden, because even if it is for a short window, John, it's a really fun time to kind of have them come up. And so, I like them. They are fun plants. And what would you say, Peggy Anne, the biggest pest issue is with lilies? Because I kind of feel like they don't have a lot of pests.
In general, they don't have a lot of pests, but there is one lily beetle out there, and it's bright red. And in some places in the country, it is there, and that is a problem. I'm lucky it's not in my area, but the northeastern United States, New England has them, central and western Canada, and now I've heard that they're recently down in Washington and Oregon, too.
Yeah.
So for most of the country, it's not a problem, but for folks living in New England, it really can be.
And that's a beetle, you're saying?
Yeah, it's a bright red beetle. You couldn't miss it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Tiger, I have a confession to make.
Yes.
I had, at my old house, one of my favorite plants was a lily called Silk Road.
Oh.
It was Orient Pet, and maybe Peggy Anne can tell us about those. But you were talking about how they can get tall. This one was over 8 feet tall.
What?
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Did you have to support it, or did it stand up on its own?
It was growing in among some other plants, so it held up on its own. But it was on a hillside, so when you're standing at the bottom of the hill, you were looking up, and to me, it seemed like it stayed in bloom for a long time.
The flower, what, maybe as big as your hand?
Yeah, they were pretty big, almost not quite as big as stargazers, but almost like that. Yeah. And Peggy Anne, I think that's a cross between an Oriental lily and a trumpet lily. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're exactly right. They're called OT hybrids sometimes because of the Oriental and the trumpet. Uh-huh. And they're also sometimes called tree lilies because they get so huge. And they are also called Orient Pets, just to make it confusing for everybody. But they are amazing. And you know what? I do stake my OT hybrids because they get so tall, and I just don't want to see them get damaged before the bloom. But I'm growing Scheherazade, and it's crazy. It's also almost 8 feet tall. And there's over 20 blooms on that, and it does flower for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
fragrance.
And these are all coming from bulbs, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're talking about. This is the bulb of the year, the wide range that it kind of encompasses. Because like we kind of talked about in the beginning of the program, people think of lilies and they kind of think of one plant, and that's all that it is. But as we mentioned, there's ones that bloom early, there's ones that bloom late, there's ones that get 8 feet tall. There's also the compact varieties now that only get maybe a 2 foot tall but have massive blooms on it as well, and not a lot of pests. We're going to have to take a break here in about 30 seconds, Peggy, but when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about the soil requirements, because when we talk about bulbs, sometimes there's specific things that they need to be planted in to make them perform. So when we get back from the break, we're going to continue chatting with Peggy Anne regarding the bulb of the year.
We are going to take a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio, those on Facebook Live. Questions, comments for Peggy right there on the comments section here on Facebook. Thank you for tuning in. Biz Talk Radio. Going to take a break. Back after these messages. You are tuned in to Garden America. Back with Garden America, Garden Buddies back in studio. Brian Main, Tiger Palafox, John Bagnasco, Lilies is our topic today. Talking bulbs, tigers. We continue with Peggy.
Yeah, we're talking with Peggy Anne Montgomery with the Garden Media Group about the bulb of the year, which is the lily. Now, Peggy, I had mentioned before the break we're going to be talking soil, but I do have a quick question for John. When that tree lily would bloom, when did the plant begin to die for you? Was it a summer thing?
No, it didn't. The plant did not die until the fall, late fall, when the weather began to get cold.
Okay.
And I have a quick question for Peggy before you go into the soil. When is the best time of year to buy lily bulbs?
That's a great question. You can really plant them in the spring or the fall. I generally plant mine in the fall, several weeks before the first frost date, so that it can put down some roots and some stem roots and have a strong start. But I put in a lot of lilies containers this spring, too.
Okay. So you kind of have a lot of leeway, because if you plant it in the fall, it just pretty much stays there over winters, maybe establishes itself, but it's really not going to grow until the spring. Or,
Correct.
You can plant it in the spring, but you might be a little bit behind, as far as the schedule goes if you wait too long. So what would be spring for you in Delaware, or early spring? When would you plant them? Would you be planting them in April?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And
yeah, they're not as fussy as some bulbs that come from warmer areas like dahlias that really need the soil temperature to be a good 50 degrees or so before they go in. They're a little more forgiving than that.
Okay. And so now, I had mentioned the soil, and I'm always thinking bulbs, and being in Southern California, we have terrible soil. So whenever I think of bulbs, I feel like it's impossible to grow in Southern California because our soil is clay, rocky, sandy. It's not it's not loamy at all. But lilies, like you said, they grow in a wide range of areas, and they can tolerate a lot of things. Is there anything that people need to consider when planting the lilies in terms of maybe their soil or fertilizer or anything like that?
The very most important thing is that they can't stand in water. So if you have an area in your garden where water does accumulate or stands, that's not a good place. They'll rot in situations like that. So these bulbs, a lot of them come from the Far East. In the Netherlands, they're grown in very sandy soil. So they'll take quite a wide range of soils as long as they're not wet. My soil is kind of a light clay, and I am always kind of mixing in some compost or leaf mold into that, and that seems to be fine. If you're going to plant them in the fall, a nice layer of mulch over the top of that helps. It kind of just regulates the soil temperature. And then I give them some, after they bloom, depending when I plant them, in the spring or the fall, I give them some organic bulb fertilizer. They don't necessarily need it, but why not make them as happy as you can?
Okay. And when it's done in the fall, is this something that you need to naturally let break down and go back like you need to do with some bulbs? Or is this something that, it starts to look bad, you can cut it down and, it'll be okay for next year?
Yeah, when you see the stem and all the leaves on the stem are turning brown and they finish turning brown, you can cut it off right at the soil surface.
Okay. All right. Now, I have another question for you, Peggy, and with, this is a big debate within the lilies industry. So when you have the lily, do you pull off the little yellow pollen stems, or do you leave them on the flower?
She knows where you're going with this.
Well, it's really funny because I happen to think they're very lovely, and I don't use white tablecloth, so I don't mind a little pollen on my hands or on my table. But my mother-in-law is a florist, and the first thing that she does when she comes over is pulls them all off of my whole vase of lilies.
Yep.
So yeah, and people argue that it makes them last longer or something, right? And
and I think it probably does. I mean, if you pull them off, the plant isn't trying to set seed and do those other things, and so they probably do flower a little bit longer that way. But I'm a gardener. I don't care if my hands are orange for a while, and I don't care if I get a little on the table.
Yeah.
But everybody should do what makes them happy. And hey, and look, if they're in your in your wedding bouquet, you sure don't want that on your white dress.
Yeah, that is true. And the more you move around the flower, it gets on the flower, so you kind of like doesn't.
It does. It does. When the pollen gets on the flower petal itself, that makes them degrade faster.
It's like a bag of Cheetos.
It is.
Yeah, it is pretty much.
I never heard that. Awesome.
Good job, Brian.
I agree with Peggy, though. I think that's part of the flower.
Yeah,
I do too. It's kind of fun to see that bright yellow,
yeah,
orangish.
as long as you're not using it somewhere where it can be stained. But, I'd rather see the complete flower in my yard, not lily eunuchs everywhere.
Lily eunuchs, yeah.
Me too. But, to each his own. Whatever anybody likes, that's fine. But I do think it's part of the beauty.
And in the garden, in the yard, do you have to let them do that in order to have them keep producing, bulbs and
No.
because you said, your what was it, your tiger lilies, you're getting ready to divide, they're getting bigger and things like that?
Yeah, no, you don't have to do that outside.
Okay.
It wouldn't happen in nature, and you don't need to do it. Some people will do it because they want their flowers to last a little bit longer. And if you've got time for that and it's important to you, you should do it. But they definitely don't need to have that happen.
Got it.
The only reason you would need that, Tiger, would be to form seed, not the bulbs.
Right.
So if you were breeding lilies, you would definitely want to leave that. But otherwise, it's not going to affect the bulb. It's going to be the plant itself, right? Peggy,
a lot of them are going to form little bulblets along the stems. Tiger lilies do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's perfectly fine. And you know what, guys, there's some new breeding going on that's really cool. And now we're seeing double lilies, and they don't have any, anthers or anything, so they don't have any pollen, and they don't have any fragrance, and they're just gorgeous, and they last even longer than lilies in the vase. And my lilies in the vase go for about 2 weeks.
So the double lily, is it kind of like a double angel's trumpet, where it's a tube within a tube of a flower? Is that what the description of the flower is?
No, it's like the regular lily that you would be thinking of, like a regular oriental, but it's got at least twice as many petals. And so the flowers are just very full. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Wow.
And they're beautiful in the vase. They're great for cutting. They're great in the garden. They don't have pollen, so for people that are worried about that, that's not a problem. And they're just as pretty as you could be. They're gorgeous in a vase. So there's a lot of new breeding that's coming out with things like that, because some people do not like to have cut flower lilies that have pollen. And, most of the lilies attract pollinators, of course, because they're single varieties. Double ones will not.
Got it.
I've grown double lilies before, and I don't know if I'm right on this, Peggy, but it seems like that flower lasts a little bit longer than the single.
That's what she...
Absolutely, they really do, and it's again because it's not trying to set seeds. It's not trying to procreate. All it has to do is flower, and so
pretty.
they do last a little longer. And it's really exciting. Lily Days in Holland is coming up, and all of the breeders are going to be showing their new varieties. And there's some really cool stuff out there.
Do you have any recommendations for people that are looking for lilies? Maybe because, online is kind of the place to go to now for a lot of these bulbs, because it's so easy to have 1,000 varieties on your online store, and, you can ship them where, garden centers and nurseries. I'm sure we would love to have a lot of these cool varieties, but it's just such a challenge today.
Right.
Do you have any resources that you like out there for our listeners to be able to kind of give them hints on where to find these?
Oh, that's a great question, too. Well, actually, I represent flowerbulbs.e here in the U.S., and so we've got a great website. It's called flowerbulbs.eu, but we don't sell anything. We're going to want to be your source for inspiration and education. And so I think that there's a lot of, you just have to do a Google search, and you'll find quite a few. And these are a lot of companies that have been around. They're family companies that have been around for more than 100 years. So there's a lot of credible, wonderful places to find online to buy lilies or any other bulbs. And like you say, it's really tough for a garden center to have 100 different varieties of lilies, and it's much easier to do online. And then they'll send them to you when it's the appropriate time to plant in your area.
Yeah, and but your website, flowerbulbs.eu, lots of great inspiration, good resources for information on how to grow them, where to grow them, right?
All of that. And join us on our social media sites, too. There's a lot of gorgeous pictures, information. We'll do giveaways and stuff. And if you go to flowerbulbs.com on social media and you ask a question, I'm the one that's going to answer it for you.
Okay. Hey, we're going to have to take a quick break again. When we get back, we'll finish up chatting with Peggy Anne regarding the bulb of the year.
Yes, indeed. And those on Biz Talk Radio, next segment is the final segment of hour number one. Those of us on Facebook Live, one continuous show. Do stay with us. Garden America, back after these messages for our good friends on Biz Talk Radio. Returning from that break, Biz Talk Radio Facebook Live, and again for Biz Talk Radio last segment, hour number one. News coming up, top of the hour. We come back, hour number two. Hopefully your market carries us, hour number two at about 6 minutes after. In the meantime, lilies, bulbs, talking to Peggy, and we're going to wrap things up, Tiger, as we continue here on Garden America.
Yeah, Peggy Anne Montgomery is joining us again this morning from the Garden Media Group. And Peggy, you were just talking about that you are the resource at, was it flowerbulbs.com? It's
flowerbulbs.eu. We just got a grant from the European Union, but all of our social media sites are flowerbulbs.com.
Okay.
And I have the lucky, marvelous job of representing the European bulb growers and exporters. And it's even funner for me because I lived in the Netherlands for a long time, and so I kind of feel like I'm batting for the home team.
Yeah, so when the questions come across, Peggy is the person that's answering. Lots of great experience. This is probably a busy time. I mean, Mother's Day is this weekend. Busy springtime. Everything's starting to become in bloom. Everything needs to have already been in the ground and going. So lots of fun stuff. Now, Peggy Anne, how did who chose the lily for the bulb of the year?
Well, there's two. There's two awards this year, and one is from the National Gardening Bureau, and they do a great job every year of pulling out some of the best varieties and the best plants to help teach people about gardening and teach people what are the top varieties out now. So they're a great resource for anybody that's looking for information like that. And then flowerbulbs.com does a bulb of the year too, so we can shine a light on something special and things that we just know consumers are going to be successful with, because we just want everybody to be happy, grow bulbs, and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and there's so much fun stuff out there, as we just talked about, the new varieties, different things, even old varieties that kind of come back into play sometimes are fun to kind of see, reemerge in the garden. And what a great way to introduce some color and some impact in your yard with the, Asiatic lilies, the Oriental lilies, the tiger lilies, just such a fun array of lilies. And, like we talked about, they grow, across lots of zones, very easy to manage, low pests, not a lot of soil requirements. Great information, Peggy Anne. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We will post some of the links that we talked about onto the chat and into our feed as well. And, enjoy your weekend. You're going to be working in the garden this weekend?
Oh, yeah, you should see me. I'm filthy. I've been gardening all morning, and I'm going back out.
Oh, well, have fun, enjoy it, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Take care, Peggy. All righty, there's your lily talk. There's your bulb talk for the next month, John.
I was just looking at online lily sources.
And he got lost into it.
Yeah.
Like, where am I right now?
I forgot about lilies.
Yeah.
It's not something we talk about usually.
No, but even Solomon in all his glory was not arraigned as one of those.
No, not at all. But I loved his hair.
So anyway, the tree lilies I definitely need.
You're going to get some?
When you think of bulbs, she's .eu, right?
Yeah, right.
So you think of a lot of bulbs coming from
The
Holland and
Netherlands.
in Europe. But lilies is one of the few bulbs that there are some U.S. producers of. There's a lot in Oregon, Washington, up in that area. And I'm going to place an order for fall and plant some of them.
There you go.
See, the show inspires John as well.
Yeah.
He came in this morning. I don't think he had ordering lilies on his mind.
No, but now, there he is.
See?
I forgot how many lilies I've grown.
Over the years,
Over the
you
years,
just
yeah.
forget, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of like, oh yeah, I had it.
Yeah, I think what I was thinking of was, if you go to Home Depot, you see those little 6-inch
Easter
pots
lilies
of
or
lilies.
whatever.
You're right.
And they're mostly Asiatic lilies, I guess,
Yeah.
the little short ones. And those are the ones I kind of thought, this is a waste.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I forget the others, so
You've been inspired.
Now,
I've been inspired.
now, when you had that other tree lily, what did you call it? A Oriental pet?
Orient Pet.
Orient pet.
Yeah, and it's from Oriental lily crossed with a trumpet, which, Easter lilies are trumpet lilies.
Mm-hmm.
So you cross the Orientals with the trumpets and you get Orient Pets.
It came back year after year.
And then with more than one stem.
Okay.
So you would get maybe a dozen blooms, like 8 feet up in the air, and then the next year 2 or 3 stems.
Okay.
So yeah, it
And
just
it's
got
just by
bigger
itself.
every year.
It's just by itself. It just kind of will die down like you talked about in the fall.
Yeah.
Goes away completely. Next spring, you forgot it was there. Next thing you know, the plant's 3 feet tall, and you're like, oh, yeah, there you are again. And then it's 8 feet tall and putting out flowers.
I don't know if I make it that personal. I don't really go, oh, there you are.
Hi.
There you
Hi
are. There you are, Orient pet.
Yes, my little Orient pet.
Exactly. But that is the fun, because I've talked about, in my yard, I have the freesias, I have the paper whites, and they're just fun to just kind of have come up.
Right.
And
Leave
you're like,
them alone. Let them do their thing.
yeah. And you're like, oh, wow, that was pretty. Thank you. And then they die and they go away.
Thank you for your brief appearance.
Yeah. But, one of the ways that I kind of like bulbs too, because it gives you a change in your yard. Because, for instance, if you plant a shrub, let's say a sweet pea shrub, a polygala sweet pea shrub, it's in and out of bloom. It's pretty. It's there. But it's always there. And, it doesn't leave you room for anything else in that spot.
How long do those bloom, by the way? The reason I ask is because I put one in that area that I'm just finishing by the driveway, and it's been in bloom for probably 3 months now.
Yeah, I mean,
full bloom.
They bloom for a very long period. I honestly don't even know when they're not blooming. Maybe only in the, stretches of time when they're kind of in between their bloom cycles. But, compacta or the standard big one, I always see them in the nursery in bloom.
Yeah.
But anyways, the lily will go away, and then something else can take its place, and then it always comes back, or the bulb, I should say. So I think they're kind of fun to have in the yard.
Well, they would be good for a long border.
Yes.
If you've got a lot of different perennials coming up
in
at different times and bulbs. Yeah.
Got your quote of the week for next week, John.
What's that?
The quote will be, nature blooms at just the right time when you need inspiration or a surprise.
Ooh,
That was
who said
from
that?
Gina Richardson.
Right.
Look at her. Jeez.
That's
going
next
deep,
week's quote.
Gina.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to take a break now.
Take a break.
We've got news coming up for The good folks, our good friends on Biz Talk Radio, going to come back here, Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio, hour number 2. Do stay with us, obviously, unless you have something more pressing. Questions, comments, we are open right now on Facebook Live comment section. Do stay with us. Going to take a break. John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox, I'm Brian Main. News coming up. We are back at 6 minutes after 4. Biz Talk Radio, back even quicker on Facebook Live. Stay with us. Those on Biz Talk Radio, welcome to hour number 2, Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us and being with us from the get-go. We know some people have to come and go throughout the broadcast. We appreciate any time you can give us and any information we can pass along.
You know, our good friend Sherry gave me a source for when we were in Costa Rica. One of the plants that my wife fell in love with was the pink orchid tree, the pink bauhinia. And Sherry gave me a online source, and I ordered one, and it came yesterday.
Happy Mother's Day, right?
Well,
just the right timing is good.
Well, yeah, actually, I was going to give it to Shannon for Mother's Day, along with something else,
right,
which I won't mention on air in case this is one of the very few times she's listening. You never know. Plus, Gina's listening. I don't want Gina to tell her.
Yeah, Gina, don't spoil it.
That's right. So anyway, I was able to get that. I'm trying to think of the name of the company right now, the nursery that I bought it from, so I could pass it on. But the Hoya carrii, they had a variegated leaf.
Oh,
and I think the price on it was $26.
Okay.
But if you ordered any plant, they gave you one free.
Oh, wow.
I know. So I got the
variegation. Is a pink? Is it a white? Is it what's the
variegated on the leaf? Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of a creamy green.
Yeah. Neat.
Yeah. So I don't think I would have ever bought one of those because what do you do with them?
Hey, Shannon's super into houseplants right now, so it's a great houseplant.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a vine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Hoyas are those. There's the Stephanotis vine.
Yeah,
Stephanotis vine, wonderful white, fragrant trumpet flower, but sometimes they do real well, sometimes they don't do as well, and that's kind of like the Hoya also, where it's like it's really kind of a neat plant, but sometimes it's got to be just in the right area to thrive, and that's hard to accommodate, especially out there in Fallbrook where maybe you have extreme highs or extreme lows.
Do you know what I found about Stephanotis?
What?
That for some reason, a lot of people plant them in the shade.
Right.
They need full sun.
Right. But they also can't.
If you plant them in full sun, they do great.
But even in Fallbrook?
Yeah.
Really?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, at my old house.
I was always I was always told they can't tolerate that much heat, that much exposure.
Yeah. That's why,
the problem.
Why I bring up the point.
Yeah.
I don't think that's correct.
All right.
They like the heat. Sherry, by the way, happened to be listening.
There she is right
and
there
she
with
said
the
it's Gabrielle Growers.
Growers.
Yeah.
Like the woman's name,
the woman's
Gabrielle?
name, Gabrielle.
Or Gabriel?
Or
Gabriella.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Well,
is it Gabriel or Gabrielle?
I think it's Gabrielle because it's Gabrielle.
Oh, yeah,
it's the I before E, John, which we're all
if it
familiar
didn't
with.
have the LE on the end, it would be Gabriel.
Correct.
Right.
As in the angel, but this is Gabrielle.
Well, if you're on Facebook Live, you can actually see the spelling. One of the beauties of being on Facebook Live.
Yeah. Oh, yeah?
As
Did it
opposed
show
to Biz Talk.
Yeah.
It's right there. Yeah.
Boom. Look at that.
Gabrielle, as John said.
And then it pops right up.
It pops right up. There you are.
Pretty soon the link will pop right up as we talk about it.
Yeah, without even doing anything, right?
Yeah.
I gave, one of the advantages of being able to move to Idaho, where Gina lives, is you can grow peonies.
Yeah.
And that's something we can't do in San Diego. But anyway, I've given her some peonies as gifts, and they take a year or two to grow, especially the tree peonies.
Yeah.
But she said the one that I bought her 2 years ago now is blooming.
Ooh, pretty.
She says, and it's my new plant. I think she means maybe it's my new favorite plant.
Like her new, what she loves to,
Yeah.
she's going to incorporate more.
She said, is there a prettier flower to change my mind?
Yeah, peonies are spectacular.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah. And they're again kind of in that fun category that they're there, but then they go away, and then they come back and they surprise you every year.
Which makes it special, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to something that's there all the time, you take it for granted.
Yeah, like roses. Like they're always there. Who needs a plant always to be there?
Your significant other, always there.
Well, speaking of roses, my rose seedling table is just about in full bloom.
Really?
Yeah, I've got...
See anything fun?
Oh, yeah, a lot of fun stuff.
Is there anything blue?
Is there anything blue? Well, I have, I think, 6 or 7 one-gallon cans of Manhattan blue.
Right.
Which is nowhere near blue.
But it's got the name.
But it's got the name, and those are all budded. They're not blooming yet, but those are ready to bloom. But I've got some really nice ones.
Nice. That's fun.
It's nice to see things waking up.
Yeah.
You go outside and, oh, look at you. 2 days ago, you weren't in bloom.
See, John doesn't do that. He's not personal with his plants.
Well, we've had the heat. I'll tell you, accelerating the roses, in a couple, 2 or 3 days with the heat, all of a sudden, there they are.
Well, John hit it earlier, too, with us. Normally, our weather is a nice, transition, meaning it goes from fall to winter to spring to summer, and it just kind of blends all into
slow
one.
segues.
Yeah. Well, the challenge for us is that we've had this very gloomy, overcast spring, very cool spring as well. And what happens is now all of a sudden one day these clouds go away.
It's 85 degrees.
And it's scorching sun. And our plants are not used to that. But I think right now, like you're saying, things look great because they are in this kind of waking up, everything's fun. And if we can just keep the clouds around for a little bit longer, it'll be a good spring.
A little less watering.
Yeah.
A little less watering.
But if it all of a sudden pops open and the sky opens up, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carla wants to know if liquid kelp helps with root development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's a fertilizer.
John, you're not a liquid kelp guy, are you, necessarily, or are you?
Oh, yeah, liquid kelp is great.
Yeah.
I don't use it.
Fish emulsion. What was it? Fish emulsion? Something.
I've
thought.
never
Bone
been a
meal
big
with,
fish emulsion guy.
Yeah, that's it. Right.
Bone meal, is it? Or blood meal?
Bone
bulbs?
meal. Blood meal's good.
Yeah.
But bone meal is the one that everybody tells you to use, but they
For
really
roots.
don't need it.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
I would
I
never
think that's
use
what you were
bone
getting
meal.
at, Brian.
Well, kelp is good for anything, right?
Yeah, it's got all kinds of nutrients, and it's an organic source of food.
Does
so
it grow
it's
faster
really
than
good.
bamboo? I think it does.
The best thing for root development, if you want an organic food, is alfalfa.
Mm-hmm.
So alfalfa meal, it has a hormone in it that aids in root development.
Yeah.
So, some people go to the feed store and just buy alfalfa pellets that
Really?
you feed to horses.
Really?
Yeah.
And
And just use that as the fertilizer?
just work it into the ground, yeah.
See, I kind of just go and buy the all-purpose box because it's got it all in there. There's a little bit of everything in there. You read the side of the box. I got alfalfa, cottonseed, blood, bone. Just got it all.
It's a great concoction.
Exactly. When you're putting down the fertilizer for the spring season, the one thing that I've noticed we've been educating my guys, my crews, is to, don't just drop it at the base of the plant. A lot of people will just take the granular fertilizer or powder fertilizer, they put it right next to the stump, right next to the stem of the plant. And, they don't like it, number one. And number two,
Your workers or the plant?
Well, yeah, exactly. The plant doesn't like it, but my workers are frustrating. And number two is, plants absorb things around what they're called their drip line. So kind of like a little bit outside of the stem.
It's so funny that the tendency to want to put everything right there where the stem's coming up.
like it's got a mouth right there and it's going to chew on it right there.
When like you said, in and around the plant, because it's going to be whether it's a pot or outdoors.
Yeah.
In a regular garden, it's going to be absorbed around that plant.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
right there, got to pour it right there by where it's sticking up.
John takes his little Osmocote pellets and feeds it to the roses.
Yeah, I've noticed his Osmocote is not necessarily right there; it's all around.
Yeah.
I don't use Osmocote anymore.
What happened?
He got turned on to
BioStart.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said you can get that, right?
I said we can, or Site One can get it. So if you have a Site One near you, they should be able to bring it in.
I never heard of Site One. Did you tell me about that?
Yes. Do you remember Hydroscape?
Yeah.
They are the company that took over Hydroscape.
Oh.
Or John Deere Landscape Supply. Do you remember them at all?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, they're big in tractors. So with that, we're going to take a break. It is Biz Talk Radio break time here on Garden America.
When we come back, I want to finish with a thought that I just got diverted on, but we can get back to.
Don't lose it.
We were talking about rose seedlings.
Let's make this break quick. Well, we can do real quick here on Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio. Got to get those commercials in, and all the great sponsors, including Fertilome, who bring you Garden America. Back after these messages. Garden America has returned from the break. We are in studio, obviously, here from San Diego, California, iHeartMedia and Entertainment. Those on Biz Talk Radio, welcome. John, back to your point before you forget. Talking roses.
Yeah, the reason I brought up the rose seedlings was because Tiger's working on an interview with Heirloom Roses.
Yes.
For maybe 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. And the reason we're going to have them on is because they are going to sponsor a Name the Rose contest. And it happens to be one of my rose seedlings that they're going to put into commerce, and they'll be the source for selling it. And people are going to put in their ideas on a name for that particular rose.
Are we void where prohibited?
No, you can put in a name, and you're good at names.
John's booty.
I would say that probably will not win.
Well, wait a second. We're talking pirates, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a treasure. Like, it's
I'm
John's
just saying
treasure.
it's not going to win.
Come on.
Booty call, that's not going to win.
No.
No, Brian, you're much better at names than Tiger.
Well, we'll see.
Wait a minute.
We'll see. Either the names I come up with are already taken.
Wait a minute now. You say it's not going to win, but who's voting on this? Because Heirloom Rose is the one that's going to make the final decision.
You put it in, see what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah, see what happens.
I think John's Booty would be a good name for a rose.
Well, it might, but I think Heirloom wants something that is going to be more universal.
Oh.
Like not when they're advertising the rose, nobody's going to know who
Starry,
John
Starry
is.
Night?
And
But there's a lot of Johns
you
out
like
there.
that? Starry, Starry Night?
it's the name of a petunia.
See?
It's the name of a painting, too, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's
That's
Vincent Van Gogh.
Yeah.
But see what happens when I come up? It's already named.
Yeah, look at
There's a
when I
lily
come up
named
with a
after
name,
that.
he doesn't like it.
Millie wants to
nothing
know.
satisfies John.
That's not true.
Never good at
I'm
You're getting
easily
upset.
satisfied as long as I get what I want when
What
I
I
want.
want and how much I want.
Yes. Hey, Millie wanted to know the fertilizer I said I used. It's called BioStart, and I don't know if it's available anywhere.
By Growmore.
It's made by Growmore.
Made by Growmore.
Right.
It's a special blend
Right.
that
So
they do.
if you shop at a retailer who sells Growmore products, you might ask them if they can get it. It comes in 50-pound bags, 40-pound bags. Anyway, it's the most complete fertilizer I've ever seen. I really like it. There's also some good, I haven't used them because I don't have access to their products like you do, but there's some great Fertilome products that are organic that could be substituted if you can't find that.
Yeah.
Rick says that he missed the guest today, but that he started seriously growing lilies when he moved to Oregon, and now that he's in Idaho, he's growing them because there's so many different types.
Well, Oregon and Washington were two states that Peggy mentioned this morning.
Yeah,
right.
Big growers.
Right.
And I think the number one Easter lily producer is in Oregon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The
for
beauty
bulbs,
is Rick
Easter.
can go back and watch the show or listen to the show just about any digital or streaming means possible. So, Rick,
Oh, yeah,
never
you
an
can
excuse.
Go back to Facebook
Yeah.
or
YouTube this afternoon
YouTube,
or
yeah.
Alexa, if you have Alexa, Spotify, Google.
Rewind us right now.
Yeah, Pandora, maybe. I don't know. Joe Rogan's big on, was it Pandora? That's where he got his contract.
Oh. Was that what you were going to mention after the break?
What?
You were mentioning the
contest.
the contest,
The contest, right.
Okay. Just want to make sure you followed up with your thought, your train
Yeah,
of thought.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we're gonna have someone from Heirloom Rose join us to talk about the contest. Is yours the only rose they're looking to name, or do they have other ones as well?
Mine is the only one.
Ooh.
Well, wait a minute. Before we name a rose, we need to know a little bit about it, its origin, the color, and
Do
how
they
well
have
and how well it performs.
Origin is me.
Okay.
Fallbrook, California.
Right.
It's a flat, single, white that is a soft pink, but in the heat it turns white. So it's a very light pink, turns white in the heat. And
What about the hues? Does it have hues?
What about the fragrance? Does it have a fragrance
Oh, but yeah, that's good. Good question.
No, it doesn't have a fragrance.
Okay.
at all?
Well, I
So it's
can't
void.
tell. I can't
It's
tell.
void of fragrance?
I don't know. You guys would have to smell it. But it does produce in huge clusters, and when the plant's in full bloom, you can't even see the leaves.
Do you have one?
Yes.
Are you going to bring it in for when we do the show?
No,
See-
because I'd have to dig it up.
Well, but don't you think this is information?
I guess I could bring in a cutting.
This
That's
is
probably
something
what
you would
A
need
stem.
before coming up with a name. We
Yeah.
need to know that because the name should somehow.
Well, I'm
reflect.
sure they're going to have pictures of it on their website, right, when you go to name it.
White, no fragrant,
flat.
flat
But
rose.
huge clusters of flowers. The whole thing's covered in...
Think clusters, Tiger.
Think clusters. All right.
Um,
Good. All right. I'm rolling. I'm going to win this contest.
all right.
All right.
Kevin in Coeur d'Alene says that they are at 75 degrees yesterday.
Wow.
That's warmer than San Diego.
Then San Diego.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're too cold in San Diego, move
Go to
to
Coeur
Coeur
d'Alene,
d'Alene, Idaho. Yeah.
I mean, Gina's probably warmer than us too, right?
You know, I was talking to my wife about this. Kevin said that they saw the Aurora Borealis last night.
What?
Did you
Cool.
hear about that?
No.
Well, wait a minute.
Idaho.
They're not that far north to see that, are they?
No. This with all the northern states were supposed to be able to see it.
Oh.
Last night it was a
Special moment. And
a unique event where the
Like Haley's Comet, once every 75 years.
no, this is not regular like Haley's Comet. It had to do with I think it had to do something with the magnetism and the sunspots and
Getting into the axis tilt and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. I don't know
What's
any
the
of that.
Seinfeld joke or whatever. It's to do with the. Oh man, I blew it. You guys always said it
Think
before.
about it. What, really?
It has to do with the atoms or something like that. You guys would say it was like a Seinfeld joke.
Oh, I used to say my joke from when I was a kid that it's the molecules.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe
the
that's what it
molecule-
was.
it's
The
the
molecules.
molecules,
It has to
right.
do with the molecules.
That
Brian.
happened when I was about 10 years old at my cousin's house. We were in the kitchen, and there was a little neighbor girl there also. She was about like 5 years old, and my aunt was boiling water on the stove. I think maybe to make hard-boiled eggs
I remember
or
this
something.
story now. Yes,
And it
yes.
boiled over.
Exactly.
And she went and turned it, and she goes, "Oh, it got too hot." And the little girl goes, "I know, it's the molecules."
Yeah, that's
I
what
remember
happened.
being
the
impressed.
molecules.
We used to have an engineer at a radio station I used to work for. Anytime something would go wrong with the equipment, hey, John, engineer, would this happen? How come this doesn't work? His answer was always ballistics. Ballistics?
Yeah.
We're smart enough to know that ballistics has to do with gun and
bullet.
criminal homicide investigations. You know, you can't throw ballistics around anymore. We're not going to buy it.
Yeah.
We've got to take a break, John. You've got something on your mind.
Dana came up with the perfect name for the rose. I think she's going to beat you guys.
Oh, no way. Delete her comment.
Where is it? I don't see it.
Delete her comment
Pura
right now.
Vida.
What is it?
Pura Vida.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Good name, huh?
It's a good name, and you know what? I don't think there's a rose named that.
No, there isn't.
And we should explain to people why that's a good name and where we learned it.
Maybe when we come back.
After these messages on Biz Talk Radio, Garden America continues. It is Garden America with your garden buddies, Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox, having a great time this morning going here, there, and everywhere. And again, Dana comes up with, John, the name of the rose that she's talking about?
Yeah, where does that phrase come from?
Well,
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, and it's like everyone says it all the time, like in Hawaii.
I think the literal translation is pure life, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
So they say it when you greet somebody, when you say goodbye to somebody, or just in a conversation.
Yeah.
It could help you break into the rose market in Costa Rica, too.
I wonder if you could substitute that for bless his heart.
Bless his heart.
Bless your heart.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. Pura vida.
Pura vida.
You know what?
God
It is
him.
bless your heart. Because remember, Eduardo, sometimes somebody would say something, and you would just see him shake his head and just say pura vida.
Yeah, Pura vida.
Yeah. It's kind of like bless your heart. Bless
Yeah,
his
he
heart.
had several phrases he would use.
All right, well,
Yeah.
Danny, you've got to officially enter the contest and do it right.
Yeah.
Do it right.
Yeah. Well, we've got
Something will happen.
the details coming up.
Right.
Everybody likes that name, though.
Yeah.
Dana right now is in the lead.
Kevin wants you to explain how to register a rose in the patent name.
Like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
You don't want to patent a rose unless you're willing to spend $6,000 to $10,000 because that's how much a patent costs.
And that patent's only good for a certain amount of
20
years.
years.
20 years, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you can trademark a rose for about, I think in the last time I trademarked something, it was about $1,200. Maybe a little less, I'm not sure, but it's easier to trademark a rose. The difference is if you patent a rose, no one can produce it without your permission.
Without the express written consent of the National Football League?
Exactly. But if you trademark a rose, anybody can produce it, but they can't use the name.
They can't use the name on it when trying to sell it.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so a lot of people will grow David Austin roses, which are trademarked, and just use the breeder name so you know what it is. So if someone looked up the breeder name, they could find out what rose that really was.
Yeah.
Let's see. Joey says that he uses a root feeder for deep watering on his trees and wants to know if he can use the BioStart. Nice thing about that BioStart, it's completely water soluble.
Yeah.
So yes, you could do that.
Because, root feeder is just an injector, right? Isn't it that stake and you hook up the hose to it, you put the fertilizer in there and it injects it into the soil?
Yeah.
So, because it's a water-soluble fertilizer, that would easily work. So
anyway, the way that, we were just talking about patenting and trademarking. So what you would do would go to the U.S. patent and trademark site. I think it's uspto.com, and you have to apply for a registration first, and then they do all the research to make sure that no one's using it. And then you can go ahead and do it. And you've got to pay them to register it, but on a true patent, there's so much legal work you need a lawyer to do it.
Oh my God!
And that's where all the costs come in. Somebody just Carla posted the downside of Dana winning the contest.
What?
The prize is going to be 50 roses.
Yeah, but I know a place where they would thrive.
I think that the
50 roses.
I'm not positive, but I think the prize is going to be one rose. Maybe that particular
Here's your rose. Congratulations.
Yeah. I'm not
Good
sure.
luck.
We'll have to see what
Take a
they come up
picture.
with.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun.
It is fun. It's always fun to kind of have those contests, and it's kind of fun to see what people come up with. People are so creative with these names. Like, look at that. It's, a good thing for us, and somebody else will see a picture of the rose, and something will spark their imagination, and maybe you didn't even think of it, and you're like, wow.
Back in the early 70s, Paul McCartney had an album called Red Rose Speedway, and he had a rose in his mouth. Sideways, I think so. Red Rose Speedway.
Was he on a racetrack?
No, not just. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the correlation was. But we know there's a rose named McCartney.
Wasn't there a monkey that promoted a tea brand?
Tea brand.
That
Like
was
a tea
Red
that
Rose.
you drink?
Red Rose tea.
I don't remember.
Do you remember Red Rose tea?
No.
Celestial Tea has all those bears.
I know
animals.
Bus Driver Tea.
This was a chimpanzee
Oh.
that was promoting Red Rose tea, and for some reason I seem to recall him having a rose in his mouth. That's similar to what you were discussing.
I think, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And tea is made from plants, which is why we would say that on this program.
Dana's panicking. She just said, no, you can't bring them home, Brian.
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny because she says that when I bring something home a day later, she's taking care of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's so nice. We can put it right here. It looks really good out here.
Did you ever see the our good friend Kathy posted a picture of a balcony after someone had gone houseplant shopping, and it was just completely full. And she wanted to know, Dana, is this what your patio looks like?
Exactly.
That was kind of funny.
Can you see this, John?
Yes. That's it.
So it's not like crossways. The rose,
the rose is sticking out of his mouth.
Is in his mouth. Yeah.
Would you notice if Dana went out to your patio and pulled off one plant and took it away?
I notice everything.
You would know it's missing.
Look, if you put a dime in the corner, and then 2 days later I came out, I'd notice the dime was gone. I know every little. Ask her. That's what frustrates her.
You wouldn't notice that it got put there?
No. Let's say it was there. Let's say it was in the corner, out of the way. Okay, and you forget about it. The next time I'm in that room, I notice the dime's gone or the penny, whatever. I mean, every little thing. If you move something to the left or the right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would know it. I know every inch of that patio, every inch of the front yard, the sidewalk.
So that's the thing with John's. I could probably walk out to his backyard, remove 3 roses,
and he wouldn't know it.
No, I would know.
See, he wouldn't know.
I would notice.
Right, because you're so into it, the passion. You know where everything should be.
Yeah.
How about you, though? Aren't you like that?
No.
We could have fun with you at the
nursery.
You
would
right?
easily just move anything around, remove something. I'd have no clue.
Oh, and especially the nursery.
Yeah.
I bought my wife a plant for Mother's Day, and I put it in the back of the house under the eucalyptus tree. I said, she never goes there. She'll never notice it.
Never know it's there.
And the other day, a couple days ago, we were walking around the house, and she starts walking out to that area. And I go, what are you doing?
Yeah, you don't want to go over there. Come here. Look at this.
Yeah, what
Look
are you
here.
doing? And she's standing with her back to that plant.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, I just wanted to look at the weeds, which is an area that I planted last year where we put all the drip irrigation.
Right.
It's now full of leaves. By the way, I'm not sure I'm happy with that drip irrigation.
You were so happy before.
I know, but
how to
when
work
you
it?
let it overgrow with weeds and then you go to pull out the weeds and
yeah.
they're so big you can't pull them out and you use a shovel, it cuts right through it.
Well, that's the incentive not to let weeds grow.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, here's
I
a
know.
question. Because weeds are plants. We know that. Do weeds have scientific names?
Yes.
Yeah, of course they do. All plants do.
I know, but I've never heard. Give me an example of it, like a milkweed. What is
No, that's not. A milkweed's an Asclepias. That's different. You're talking, like, for instance,
Like
a dandelion.
Well,
It's a weed.
right? But
Okay.
I could see where that. What about just like some?
Every plant has a name. Every plant.
Indiscriminate.
Oxalis, spurge, Bermuda grass has a botanical name. Like every plant has a botanical name.
Even the random little weed that comes up that you can't even identify.
Because
what is
because
that?
that's the thing is somewhere else that weed could be an actual plant that
Right.
people want to plant.
What was Bruce's quote? Weeds are just misunderstood plants or something. Or
Misunderstood.
he had some.
Well, Luther Burbank said a weed is an uneducated plant.
I'll go with that. Yeah, but but
I
dandelions.
feel like that's not true at all. I think weeds are probably the most educated. They're the ones that thrive anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, when we were in Costa Rica, Tiger found the sensitive
Yeah.
plants were weeds there, right? They
Just
were
growing on the side
in
of the
lawn.
street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a house plant here.
Okay, so we're going to
Very
take a
sought
break.
after house
We've
plant.
got one more segment, just like that. One more segment, Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. Whatever's on your mind on Facebook Live, better get it in now as we continue. Taking a break for Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. This is Garden America, everybody. We have made it. Usually there's a polite applause at this point when we say we've made it to the very final segment. Show's almost over, so a little polite applause for those that have been like, how long is this show going to go on for? Goodness gracious.
I'm surprised how many listeners are saying that red rose tea is their favorite.
It's an actual brand of tea?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
How could I make up a commercial with a monkey and red rose tea if it wasn't real?
Because you drank the red rose tea. And
you've done and said a lot of things
see.
in the past that weren't real that we bought.
But is red rose tea a brand
Yes,
or is it a type of
No,
tea?
it's a brand.
Okay.
Red rose
It's
tea.
like bus driver tea.
What?
Bus driver tea. You know what that is?
No.
That's Lipton. The guy with the little white hat.
It's called bus driver tea?
We call it bus driver tea because it's a bus driver with a white hat on the Lipton package.
I always wondered that
like
when
a
I was.
delivery drug.
I never understood the flow through tea bag.
Oh, we've only got 7 minutes here for this segment. I think you do.
We buy Lipton tea.
Well, I think they're
just
talking
when I
about
was-
the process of how the water flows through their tea bags and gives you the ultimate tea at the very end.
When I was a young boy, our favorite tea was Salada tea. Do you remember that brand?
Nope.
Salada?
I think I do, vaguely.
And the reason that I liked it when I was little was because the little tag at the end of the string had, on the back of it, had a quote.
Oh, fun.
Or a saying.
Oh.
So you would get to read that when you drank your tea and dipped
Make
your
you think about it.
graham crackers in them. Graham crackers.
Graham crackers and tea?
Yeah.
No.
Like
You had to dip them quick, otherwise the graham cracker would fall apart and melt into the
Yeah.
tea.
I don't even want to dip.
Yeah.
Really?
Graham crackers and tea?
Yeah. You never had it, did you?
No, don't think I would.
So we shouldn't have an opinion then, should we?
Well, don't put the bad mouth on it until you've tried
Don't
it.
put the bad mouth on it. You know what? You're hip. You've been hanging around kids lately, the younger generation. Hey, dude, don't put the bad mouth on it.
Yeah.
That sounds very beatnik, late 50s, early 60s. I'm going to put the bad mouth on you. I like that.
Wasn't there a group named Bad Mouth?
Bad finger.
Oh, Bad Finger. It's the same thing.
Smash Mouth.
So, yeah, Smashing Pumpkins.
Smash Mouth, I never thought was any good. They had, one song?
That's like Nickelback. They get all the bad press as well.
Yeah. Man, you were talking about weeds growing. And,
Yeah, just
you
how
know,
they
whether they
thrive.
have a botanical name or not, and they all
And
kind of.
there's some obvious ones, but then there's the ones that just come up just like grass. They're like, what?
But the crazy thing is, we talk about weeds. When we were in Costa Rica, the weeds in Costa Rica, as we talked about the sensitive plant, were obviously exotic to us. But I still can't get over the weeds of a bromeliad that were massive in trees. Those are weeds to those people. Like, people probably go out in their yard and they're like, I gotta get all these bromeliads out of my tree. And they're growing on their trees and they're like, I gotta get rid of the bromeliads.
It's just like the animals you would randomly see.
Yeah.
The exotic animals that we would never see here. Just, oh yeah.
Or like in the South when they have Spanish moss growing out of the trees, and you're like, oh, that looks so pretty, and like, oh, I got to get someone up there to pull out all that.
I can't think of a worse
growing
place
out.
to be than deep in the swamps of Louisiana or Louisiana, the bogs.
What if you were looking for an ivory-billed woodpecker?
Yeah.
I'd want to be dressed appropriately.
It says that's the only place they may exist is
The swamps of
in
Louisiana.
the swamps of the South
Yeah.
somewhere. It's there's been reported sightings of one, but I don't think there's been a documented sighting for like 100 years.
You say the same thing about Bigfoot, too. Sasquatch. Reported sightings.
Well, ivory-billed woodpeckers were real, though.
You trying to say Sasquatch is not real, John?
Well, you know why all the Sasquatch
You're a
pictures
non-believer.
are blurring out of focus? Because the scientists now realize that Sasquatch is naturally blurry and out of focus. It's not the camera. You want to answer, Rick?
I was just wondering if you were going to tell the joke about the monkey and the bus.
Oh, that's a good visual joke. I should have told that on the bus ride.
Rick says that it's a little off topic, but he saw an article that said that wood chips need a lot of nitrogen to break them down, and if you use a compost heavy with wood chips, you should add more nitrogen when you plant. I don't think if you're using it as a mulch, you need extra nitrogen. If you have raw wood and you're mixing it in the soil, then you can pull nitrogen from the soil, and plants can turn yellow. But just on the surface, I don't think there's a problem.
And
what do you think?
When we say wood chips, here's the big determination, right? When you use, like what you say, natural wood products, it's fine.
Right.
It's more when you buy that product that's like the shredded, palletized, shredded lumber product that's been dried.
Or like sawdust or something, yeah.
That is what they're describing as far as it's actually will require nitrogen to break down and amend. So, what you said as far as if you're using it as a bark and you're just dropping it on top, some people talk about it absorbing nitrogen, but I don't think it's as big a deal. But if you're amending the soil with it, you're actually incorporating it into the ground. Mm-hmm. Yes, to break down that wood would require nitrogen, and it'll actually suck it up and deplete your soil of nitrogen. But that's where I also kind of say use natural mulches. Shredded redwood, bark nugget. Those products you're not gonna have the same problem as the shredded palletized or lumber material.
And with that, we have 1 minute until the show comes to a graceful end.
Shredded pepper trees. That's what I use.
Yeah. Just make sure you don't get the seeds.
Yeah, I made the mistake with ash mulch. Just thousands of ashes.
Seeds. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, what do you say we
Happy Mother's Day.
Close the door on this show. Happy Mother's Day to each and every mom out there.
Yeah.
We do appreciate you.
Have fun at the garden walk.
Yes.
That's tomorrow or today?
Today. Started now.
Here in San Diego.
Starting in 30 minutes.
Do you have to pay for that?
Yes, you do. But they do have tickets available. If you go to the nursery, there still are tickets available.
All right, for the entire crew, Tiger Palafox, John Bagnasco, I'm Brian Main. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Mother's Day. We'll do it again next week right here on Garden America. Take care and be safe.